Now that we've done quite a bit of work on the admin area, let's shift focus to the public side of things. Let's create the controller and views that the public will use to view the content that we enter in the admin area. We'll start by generating a public controller. That controller is going to have two actions and two templates. One is going to be the index action and template. It'll have just a simple template with basic static introductory text. Essentially, welcome to our website. It'll also be the default route for the site. So if someone just goes to localhost:3000, it'll go directly to this page as the default route. The second action and template will be show. The way that we'll get to the show action is localhost:3000 and then show some page. And that some page is going to be a permalink. We'll look in the database to see if we can find a page that matches that permalink. If it's found, then we'll display the page and its visible sections, sorted in the right positions, of course. If it's not found for any reason, and we've just gotten a gibberish URL, well, then we won't raise any kind of error. We'll just redirect back to the index page. Notice that the controller isn't included. That's because we're going to write a route that will use this matching pattern, show slash whatever, the permalink, and route it to the right place. Show doesn't directly relate to the show action. They just happen to have the same name. It's really just a string used for matching in the routes. Let's begin by generating our controller. So from the root of my Rails application, Rails generate controller and public. There we go. And it's going to have two actions with templates, index and show. So we'll go ahead and create those at the same time. And then let's pop over here and take a look. So inside app, controllers, here we are with the public controller. And inside the views, I now have a folder called public that has two template placeholders there waiting for me. So in public controller, the first thing we want to consider is what layout do we want to use. We normally declare a layout at the top of our controller. Up until now, we've been using the admin layout right here. Now we could just let it default to the application one, but I like to go ahead and make it a little more explicit by actually creating one. So I'm going to do that here with public.html, HTML.erb. So that will be my new layout. And I'm going to go ahead and paste some code into it that's very similar to what we have in the admin layout if you just want to copy and paste over there. Essentially, it's just a little bit better HTML. It's got page title up at the top, style sheet link tag to make sure that it loads in public. And this just got some basic HTML that we can use to style with CSS. One difference here is that I've got a placeholder here for navigation, which we're going to be adding in a little bit. So let's go ahead and save that. That will be my layout. So let's put that at the top. Layout is going to be the public layout. Next, for the index action, it's just going to be text. So I'll just say intro text. And then let's drop into the index action, and I'll just paste in my introductory text. You can use whatever you want. It's just a little placeholder. It's a home page or a landing page. So we'll save that. I can close that up now. I'll go ahead and close these up as well. So we're back in our controller. Now we need the show action. So we know what we want show to do, right? We want show to find a page. So we should find page where, and then we'll figure out how we're going to find that page. And then if we don't find it, we know we want to redirect to action index. So redirect unless we have a value for page. So if we don't find a page, redirect. Otherwise, we'll go ahead and display the page. All right, so now let's talk about how to find that page. Well, we know that one of the requirements is that the page needs to be visible, true. Now this where is going to return an array of all the visible pages. So we want to get the first one, or if there are none, that'll be nil that it'll return as that first value. But we need more than that. We want to actually look for the permalink. Permalink is equal to, and I'll just put in a placeholder here of an empty string. What we want to do is get this value from the routes, from our parameters, to know what page we need to look up. To do that, we're going to make a little change to our routes. Let's open up our routes file. We can get rid of all of these gets that it threw in here. We don't need any of those. Underneath match admin, what you're going to do is create a new pattern now for show ID. So what that'll say is, all right, if you see that string and a slash, then go ahead and accept it, and whatever's after it is what we're going to use as the ID. And we'll pass that in as the ID to whatever action we tell it. And in this case, we want to say public and show. So it'll pass it to the public show method, and now that permalink is going to be the ID. Now we could call it something else here if you wanted. You'd call it permalink or something like that. But I'm just going to call it ID, keep it nice and simple. I partly want to do it this way just to illustrate to you that the ID doesn't have to be the ID the way that we've been working with it so far. Up until now, it's been the ID of a record in the database that we were using in the staff area. But it doesn't have to be. That's just the default behavior. So let's pop back over here. We know now how to get this value, params ID. So use that permalink, try to find visible pages that match, and grab the first one. If we don't find one, redirect to the index page. Otherwise, go ahead and display the template. So the template is going to be the show template. You can probably take a good stab at writing this on your own. If you want to pause the movie and try it, please go ahead. Here's what I've got. I'm just going to display the page name, and then I'm going to iterate through each of the page sections, the ones that are visible, and make sure that they're sorted in the right order, and then take each one as section and go through and just inside a div called section, output their content. So then I'm using a case statement. If the content type is HTML, then we're going to sanitize it to take out any tags we don't want to allow, and then we want to use raw. Remember, that's to make sure that we don't escape those HTML characters. We let them through to IRB. If they tell us that it's just text, well, then we'll let that escaping take place. We'll then assume that there isn't HTML in there, and we won't bother sanitizing it, and we'll wrap it in p tags as well. Now, what you do, the different choices you make for how you display each of these and which helper methods you use is entirely up to you. Feel free to go ahead and use line wrapping and simple formatting, truncating, whatever you want to do. Go ahead and go crazy applying methods to that. It's really a matter of your personal preference as to how each of these gets displayed. All right, so let's save that now. So we should have everything in working order. Let's go ahead and try it out. We'll go back to the terminal, Rails server. Okay, let's go to Firefox, localhost 3000. Now the default route, oops, we didn't actually change that. That was my mistake. I meant to do that and I forgot. Let's come back over here. The default route, the root route, shouldn't go to demo anymore. We actually want to redirect that to public index. So don't forget to make that change as well. Let's save it. And let's actually restart our web server just to make sure that we get that change in the routes as well. There we go. Now we'll bring up Firefox and we'll load localhost 3000. And there we go. We get our root route. We see our introductory page. Now what would happen next normally is that we would have a set of navigation links over here in the green area that we could click on that would bring up different pages. We'll work on adding that in the next movie. But the result of clicking on any of those links would be to do show and then whatever permalink. I have one called first page. Oops, I got redirected. So my page must not be visible. Let's actually just change that real quick. Admin area. We'll jump over to admin area, manage content. And I think it's an initial subject. There's my first page, visible, not visible. Let's edit that and make it visible now. So update page. Now let's jump back over here. We'll go back to the root of our site and show first. So there we are. Now we see the different sections of content. We have this is sample content and another section of content. I've got two sections in there. Go ahead and play around with that. Experiment with putting different kinds of content in the database and using different helpers to help you output them. And when you're ready, let's go to the next movie and let's write the code for the navigation that's going to allow us to move between these pages easier than just typing it in the URL string.